Now I am going to discuss the second topic under management of quality part 1. Now this topic is named as quality management, basic concepts and objective stages in quality management. Now prior to discussing the basic concepts and objectives of quality management, I want to highlight or I want to just mention the domain of quality engineering. Then possibly you will be able to the link quality engineering with the quality management. Now under quality management you have offline quality control, online quality control. This we have been emphasizing all the time. Under offline quality control we use design of experiment based tools and techniques primarily, and online quality control we emphasize on information feedback. Under design of experiments you need to identify the sources of variation, and you have to opt for design optimization. That means parameter settings of the products as well as the processes. And then we refer to product design, process design. These are the two aspects mainly dealt with by offline quality control as proposed by Taguchi. Under online quality control you have to deal with the information feedback, and then diagnosis and the adjustment is one issue we have already mentioned, and the second important issue is the prediction and correction with respect to a particular process. And so obviously all these issues are related to the process control. So this is dominance. Now in order to implement this quality engineering based tools and techniques, approaches and all, what you need a management framework, and as it is related to the quality, we say that this framework is nothing but the quality management framework. Now as a student of quality or as a learner or as a beginner, now you must have some basic ideas related to quality management. Now as I have already mentioned that the quality management terms, there are different terms we use in respect of quality management. Someone might say that this is total quality management, someone might say it's total quality, and or say total quality control, or simply say the quality issues. So essentially all these terms you can use interchangeably, and they are basically referring to the same concepts and approaches. Okay, so here I am using quality management, and sometimes I also use the term called total quality, but the total quality or total quality management or quality management all are same. Quality must not be viewed as a technical discipline. So this is the point to be emphasized. It's not simply a technical discipline, but as a management discipline. Okay, so this is point number 1. The next important point is that the quality issues permeate all aspects of business enterprise. That means whether you are running a marketing cell or whether you are working in the finance department, everywhere the quality related or the quality of the departmental activities, quality of the activities you carry out, the quality of the task, quality of the jobs, it becomes they are very, very important and to be considered. That means you say I am working in a marketing department, whether the marketing related activities while you carry out, whether you know that what are the quality issues related to those activities or not. Similarly for all other departments, all other sections. So that's why we say that the quality issues are relevant in all sorts of functions, in all sorts of departments. Total quality is a people-focused management system. Though we use the quality term, but essentially it is a management concept, and that's why it's a people-focused management system that aims at continual increase in customer satisfaction at continually lower real cost. Okay, so this is one way you can define total quality. Now, total quality stresses learning and adoption to continual change as keys to the organizational success. That means your performance or say performance of the department, okay, must constantly increase, and you should know that what are the factors responsible for the increasing performance, and similarly you must be able to relate your activities or your performance with quality related issues. So the foundation of total quality is philosophical. That means ultimately it becomes quality must become a way of life. It stresses on scientific methods to create these foundation. That is most important. In fact, the scientific methods we must be able to suggest and use to create this foundation. So it includes systems, methods, and tools. Is it okay? That means there must be a quality systems, and in order to create these systems, and you want to run these systems, you know what are the methods to be followed and what are the tools and techniques constantly you must be able to use to the sustain quality, to improve quality. The systems permit change, that is first. Philosophy stays the same, that is most important. In fact, like say continuous improvement could be your philosophy. Is it okay? Or you say that I will be creating an organization which must be human in nature. Is it okay? So that may be treated as a quality organization. So total quality is anchored in values that stress the dignity of the individual, okay, and that means the person must be treated as an individual, and the concept like say individual difference must we accept, we believe in, and the power of community action or the group activity you must emphasize. So total quality is an approach to doing business that attempts to maximize the competitiveness of an organization through the continual improvement of the quality of its products, services, people, processes, and environments. Now, in these days, you will find that while we offer a product, the service is also included. Many occasions, you cannot think of the product performance without looking into the kinds of services you must have for the products. The total quality is a total systems approach, not a separate area or program. This is to be looked into. That means whenever you talk about the total systems approach under total quality, that means entire organization must be its domain of application and an integral part of the high level strategy. That means the top management must be interested and implementing this total systems approach. It works horizontally across functions and departments, involves all employees top to bottom, and extends backward and forward. That means constant in the closed loop manner it must work to include the supply chain and the customer chain. So, so that means is a total systems approach. Now, in this context, I want to highlight three aspects of quality. First one is the quality of design. Now, the quality of design, that means you must be able to, in plain and simple terms, you are offering a design for a product. Now, whether this design is of a quality design or not, that is very, very important. Like say sometimes what happens, you go for over design, you go for under design. So which design actually you will opt for? If it is under design, that means you might say that the quality of the product, okay, may be very poor. Or if you go for over design, maybe the quality is assured, but the cost may be very high, the cost of the design. So these are the issues to be considered at the quality of design stage, and then you go for the quality of conformance. That means you offer a design and then you try to produce the product as per the design specifications. So if you can if you are able to do this, that means you say that my quality of conformance is very high. The conformance is conformance to specifications or the standards. So that is the second stage, and that means how competent your manufacturing system is to produce the product as per the specifications. So there are many other issues, in fact, related to quality of conformance. We will discuss it later on. And then ultimately, whatever you design, whatever you produce, ultimately the product will be used by the customer or the user. So and the product's performance will be judged by the customer. That means when the product must be put to use, and then the customer, the user, they will say whether the product is acceptable to or not as per their performance. So these issues is also very important. That is the ultimate test, that how successful your product is in terms of quality. So that is referred to as quality of performance. Obviously, under quality of design, there are many tools and techniques you use. Similarly, under quality of conformance, many tools and techniques you are going to use. And similarly, under quality of performance, again you will be using several kinds of tools and techniques. In course of time, we'll be covering all these tools and techniques. So, and these are all interrelated. That means whenever you talk about quality of design, and you must relate it to the quality of conformance as well as to quality of performance. So this is the relationship between all these three aspects. Now, when there is a concept called quality loop. So at this point in time, I want to highlight this aspect. We always say that the quality, the concept is to be applied for all functions everywhere in the organizations. But then again, it will be very specific. Otherwise, it can be interpreted in 100 ways. So in this case, what we say that what are the functions where of an organizations where the quality issues you must be able to identify. So whether there are two kinds of products you produce. One is the consumer product and second one is the industrial product. Now obviously with respect to the kinds of products you produce, you should identify that in general, in a generic fashion, that what are the specific functions you have in an organizations, and for each function you need to look into the quality issues. So this is the first step in creating a total quality systems in your organizations. So total means what? That means you need to look into a number of functions. So how many such functions as per the Q 1994 standard? Is it okay? ANSI, ASQC, American National Standards Institutes, and American Society for Quality Control. So they say that that these are the 11 functions you must consider while you create a total quality systems. So what are these? They are referred to, so they call it the quality loop. So what are these the elements in this quality loop? First one is the marketing and market research. Second one is the design or specifications engineering and the product design. So third one is the procurement, say purchase department. Process planning and development, that is the next one. Then you have the production, and but the production means three things actually: the fabrication of any type, assembly, and online, or say the stage-wise inspection. There's three activities: production. Then you have the inspection, testing, and examination of the final product. Then packaging and storage, sales and distribution, installation and operation, particularly for the industrial product, installation and operation. Then technical assistance and the maintenance part. And the last one is the disposal after use. So this is a very important function. So these are the 11 elements. What you need to look into, that means all these are interrelated. That means you start with marketing and market research, end with disposal after use, and you go through this the loop. And after disposal after use, that means the product is born, the product dies, and then you have to dispose it off. Okay, and while you dispose the wastes, while you dispose the obsolete products, or you need to say decommission, or you have to dispose of your entire plant. That means you must follow the rules and guidelines as said by stated by, or as offered, or as proposed by the state. Is it okay? So you just cannot dispose it off as you like. So these are the 11 elements under quality loop. So what are the key elements on the total quality? I'll just I'll be highlighting certain points, like the strategically based. That means it must come from the top management. It is the top management's responsibility. So it is an issue being dealt with by the strategic management. Customer focus, obsession with quality. That means everywhere. All the 11 elements you have to consider one by one, simultaneously, and then or simultaneously. And what you need to do, that means given an element, you must be able to identify the quality related issues, say marketing, say process planning, say the production. What are the quality issues, like say installation of your product? Is it okay at a particular location, at the customer company's premises? So what are the quality issues you must be able to say consider? Scientific approach we must believe in. That means the data based, and whatever the laws, or say the hypothesis you make, or or you assume, so that must be considered. That means we believe in scientific approach. Long term commitment. That means any exercise on building up the quality system in an element, or in a function, or company as a whole. Is it okay? Or the organization as a whole. That means it must be the slow but the definite process, and there must be a long term commitment. Is it okay? And we believe in teamwork, okay, because the problem is so complex that unless the team is formed, it may be very difficult to get the solution, the quality solution related to the quality problem from an individual, or individually you may not be able to solve the problem. So for majority of the problems related to quality, the teamwork is a must. Continual improvement of the systems. That means we say that even if you consider it to be the best, but best also can be bettered. Education and training. This is very, very important, in fact. Okay. So particularly, the systems will be managed, and the systems will be controlled, okay, by the individuals. So whether they have the right kind of potential, whether they have the right kind of capability, okay, to address the problems, to quantify the problems related to quality, this must be ensured. Freedom through control. Yes, there will be there will be some individual ideas, or say creative ideas we should look into. because the quality related problems in many cases is a very, very complex one. So the new ideas are we should always encourage, and the freedom through control, that means, but again there means within the organization structure you have to work. Is it okay? As per your the authority and the power, you must work and apply or say use your resources to apply those tools and techniques, particularly from the implementation point of view, the new tools and techniques for quality improvement. Suppose you want to implement, so for implementations you have to set the guidelines, and so it's a total the implementation manual you have to create. So unity of purpose, that means the goal must be set, and everyone, for all the departments, they must be aware of, all the departments must be aware of that what is the main goal of the companies related to the quality. So unity of purpose, and to achieve that common goal, everyone should, all the departments, all the functions must work jointly as well as independently. And employee involvement and empowerment. Is it okay? This is very, very important, in fact. So ultimate objective is to what extent you create a system, you call it a quality systems, where the individuals or the persons concerned, they have become self-motivated, intrinsically motivated to carry out their jobs. Is it okay? So there are certain principles related to quality management. I want to highlight this. First one is that quality management is based on three fundamental principles. Focus on customers and the stakeholders. So okay, that is the first one. Second one is the participation and teamwork of everyone in the organization. And the third one is a process focus supported by continuous improvement and learning. That means three things. Okay, so the customer focused, process focused, and participation and teamwork. So under customer and the stakeholder focus, there are many issues involved, like say the customer is the principal judge of quality, then perception of value and satisfaction is influenced by many factors we must believe in. It's not that he just biased with one particular thought or one particular the issue. Internal customers and external customers are equally important. Internal customers, that means there are many stages in the production system. So I work at a particular production stage. The output I produce, that must go to the next stage of the production systems, okay, or the manufacturing systems. So it goes to the next stage. That means from say the upstream to downstream. So the downstream you have the internal customers, and in the upstream you have the internal suppliers. Plus when the product is produced and the product is sold to the customers, those are basically external customers. That means ownership gets changed. So we need to consider the interests of both internal customers as well as the external customers while we create a total quality systems. Commitment to employees, this is an important issue. Opportunities for development and growth. Provide recognition beyond normal compensation schemes. Share knowledge, encourage risk taking, social responsibilities, like you have to maintain the business ethics, public health and safety. These are very critical issues these days in majority of the organizations. Environmental issues you must consider. Community and professional support you also must have. Participation and teamwork. Employees' participation in decision affecting jobs and customers make substantial contribution to quality. Individual contribution we must be able to recognize. Contribution as a team or the group. Change of attitude as mindset. It's a very difficult when we look into the zero defects program. Okay, you will find that the entire program is directed to change the attitudes or the mindset of the concerned persons while you create a total quality systems. So there are ways you can change the attitudes or the mindsets of the people concerned in order to improve the quality on a continuous basis. Empowering employees, this point already we have been mentioning, that ultimate objective is to what extent the employees, whatever may be their work level, okay, to what extent you are able to make them intrinsically motivated to carry out the jobs assigned to them. So, teamwork, we emphasize involvement of total workforce in addressing the problems systematically, problem solving by self-managed teams, is it okay? This we create, and partnerships with various customers, suppliers and educational organizations. Now, the third point is the process focus and continuous improvement. This is a must in fact, and what we try to do, the last 3 points, like incremental improvement through incremental changes, so small and gradual, this always we prefer, and improvement through breakthrough. Now this breakthrough depends on how strong, how effective your R&D is, okay. Whereas these incremental changes, is it okay? Sometimes they are referred to as a staircase changes, staircase improvement. Now this will be easier for you in fact. That means whatever resources given to you, suppose for quality improvement, to what extent you are utilizing your resources to the fullest extent possible. So if you can do this, that means incremental changes, that means with minimum investment, okay, you can go for incremental changes all the time, okay, and ultimately, you know, you can improve your quality level substantially. Whereas if you are dependent on breakthrough, is it okay? That means the probability that the breakthrough will occur at what point in time this breakthrough occurs, that is really not known. So this is an uncertain situation. So you have you have to make the problems, okay. You have to address the problems in such a way that the certainty is ensured, and the certainty is ensured when you look for incremental changes in the quality level. Is it okay? So that is very, very important. Or whereas if you want to the change your quality level through breakthroughs, then maybe you will be dealing with a problem under uncertainty. Increasing productivity and effectiveness of all kinds of sources. So what is the scope of the total quality? Now we must go for an integrated approach. Is it okay? Because all these 3 principles you have to apply and simultaneously. So the first thing what you require, that is the organizational infrastructure, a set of management practices and set of tools and techniques, okay. So this is the scope for the say the total quality. What we have basically, we have you need to highlight, we have to create the infrastructure. Sometimes we say that you need to create the environment, and while you try to create this environment, that means what sort of infrastructure you have, that is to be looked into. What sort of practices you have related to quality management, that also you must look into, and what are the tools and techniques you are going to use. Is it okay? Right now, what are the tools and techniques you are using, and in future, you feel like using some other tools and techniques, whether you are creating the right kind of environment to use these tools and techniques, that is to be looked into. And then within this structure you have, these are 3 points you have, these are all interlinked. Now you need to apply these 3 principles. One is the principle related to participation and teamwork, principle related to the customer focus, and principle related to continuous improvement and learning. So what are the key elements in infrastructure? Customer relationship management, this aspect we have been emphasizing. Many organizations these days, is it okay, like CRM, they are focusing on. This is known as the CRM. Leadership and strategic planning. Without leadership, right kind of leadership, total quality management is not possible. Human resource management, okay, we must be looking into, because ultimately it is related to the employee empowerment. Process management, is it okay, we must know. And sometimes we refer to a particular process which is referred to as a business process. Information and knowledge management, okay. And while you look into this, that means you must have an idea that to what extent the quality is affecting the performance and productivity and profitability. So improved quality you get through reduced internal failure cost, reduced appraisal costs, reduced external failure cost, improved efficiency of operations. These are the the ways you can improve quality, and increased conforming output. Okay, so the cost aspect is considered. That means reduced cost, and then increased productivity, conformance output. So output is increasing, okay, acceptable output is increasing, and the cost is getting reduced. So obviously you can increase the profitability. Is it okay? Similarly, improved quality is possible through increased customer satisfaction, process improvement, efficient resource utilization. So these are the key issues you need to consider for increasing the performance of an organization. And then increased customer satisfaction may lead to increased market share. Increased market share may lead to the increased revenue. So an increased revenue will lead to increased profitability. And similarly, if you go for process improvement, because your the total quality is essentially process focused, and efficient resource utilizations if you can have, then obviously you can improve your competitive position, because you have your competitors, and so ultimately what happens, that you will reach a condition where the price cost ratio increases. This value of price cost ratio increases, and obviously it will be reflected in increased profitability. So how the quality is related to profitability as well as the productivity, this must be made very, very clear. So this is a general outline, we can say the general a generic format. What you need to do, that means given an organization, so you need to look into all these aspects, and you need to create data, and then the exact increment in the profitability, exact increment in the quality, exact increment in productivity over the time periods that you must know, and for that the database is to be created. So in short, ultimately, if you your main objective is, if you can create a total quality management systems in your organizations, ultimately you will be always will be aware of the relationship between quality, productivity and profitability. And so obviously at this stage you create a mindset that whatever the quality related tools and techniques you are going to use, whether offline and online, it must have a bearing on creation of a total quality systems with all these features. So then only profitability is guaranteed, productivity is assured, and the quality increased. So thank you.